asked a lot from a lot of the 6th gen Mustang owners, particularly the pre-facelift one, is how do you install aftermarket Tribars into one of these. The EU Mustang and the Australian Mustang did not come with the Tribars pre-installed from the factory, so that's something we have to do ourselves. There's three ways of doing it. Broken finger. There's 3 ways of doing it. You could either do the oven method. I don't recommend that. A lot can go wrong and you could have a wasted headlight. You could use the heat gun method, which is what I've done on my lights, and you can do the cutting method, which is what I've done for a few of my friends as well. So this video will go through the heat gun method. Now the heat gun method is the only real way you can, if you wanted to, paint the inside of your light. So some people don't like this orange lens, some people don't like the chrome, whatever floats your boat. I like them, so I left them as it was. And if you use the heat gun method, it means the lens comes off and you can paint the inside of your light to whatever style you want, and it works well. So without further ado, here's the video. Enjoy watching it, and yeah, do this mod yourself.
You will need a set of trim clip removal pliers, some trim removal tools of various shapes, and steel wax carving set for removing the existing sealant. This is the combination that I used for sealing the lights back up. So I use Sikaflex 552 and the suitable activator as well as a primer. My lights have been working fine for 3 years with no water ingress. Don't forget to mask up the front of your lights because we don't want to ruin the lens, and then just get on with it really. Pick a spot. The front area is the best. You have to first remove the tabs, allowing the lens to move, and then use the pliers and heat to get in between the light casing and the lens and try and sort of apply force so it tries to come apart. Do the top section first and then the front, this area here. You'll know you're doing the right thing because you'll have movement, and then when you have enough space, you just jam in one of the trim removal clips once it's in there, and that gives you sort of an area to work away from. And what you find as and when you get more and more of those in there, so 1 or 2, it builds a stress in between the casing and the lens, and all you have to do is heat up the glue area, and that stress, as it's released, pushes away the lens from the casing. I'll let the rest of this run and you can see how I did it. This was the first light that I did. As I did more and more, I got better. So there is a time lapse of another set of lights that I did after this, which shows you exactly what you need to do from a different angle and a different perspective, I guess. you've done, this is what you'll have left. You can see a lot of sealer sort of stays behind the channel. This is where the wax sculpting tools come in handy. Some of it will come off easy like this. Some of it, you literally have to scrape the plastic off with the sealer for it to be removed. You just have to persevere. You can see there will be some cracking, but that's normal. Otherwise, the casing will not come out. This is the finished product in terms of getting all the sealer out and getting it to a stage where you can start doing the install. I was pretty happy with it. I used some blue tack to hold the tri-bars in place. I used the Diode Dynamic kit. There's only one way it can go on, and use some epoxy resin to just apply the resin at the tabs, and that's good enough. You could, if you want, just plastic weld them and then a quick test. I decided to get the cables through this little rectangle area at the back of the lights, which is covered with some fabric tape. I also made this thin plastic molding just to sort of cover that area and put the cables through. Also, you'll notice that I've cut away the wire mesh. That's very important, because if you don't do that, the epoxy resin won't go around the cables and create a watertight seal, and then you'll end up having moisture problems within your lights. So do not miss that step. And then, yeah, just stick it on. Use a lot of resin, be liberal about it. And this is the sort of setup that I use to stand up the light level and then just put the resin in. And it worked pretty well for me. Then you have to do the inside as well. And it's very, very important that you score the plastic around it, because that plastic is very smooth and epoxy will not stick to it otherwise. And again, just fill that area up with resin, and it will ensure that you have an absolute water seal tight. You won't have any water ingress issues. Then I did another test just to make sure everything's working, no cables were damaged, etc. Once we checked that everything was working, then obviously it's time to do the sealing. You can see I'm removing the last bits of existing sealer from the lens. In this clip, I use a different sealer to the one I recommend in this video, because this sealer is a butyl-based sealer and it did not work. So whichever sealer you use, fill the channel up and put the lens in and tighten it up with the screws. Don't apply a cable ties or anything, because that will create extra stresses which you don't want. And then your lights will work. Leave them for about a day for everything to set.
So I hope you found that video helpful. It covers most of the difficult parts, is what I would say. One or two of the things it has left out, because I didn't plan on doing the video, to be honest. That footage is 2.5 years old. So I've managed to scrape it all together from my old phones and make a video for you guys. This tool for this job is very important. Yeah, you see how it allows you to pry the lights out. You will also need things like this to get the sealer out. Again, make your life easy for yourself. And the one thing I didn't cover in the sort of the tutorial is, how do you get a good finish with this method at the top? What you want to do is, before you put the lens on, is again go with a heat gun all over this seal, or this channel rather, and press it down with a needle nose set of pliers. Let's see if I have one handy. I don't, but get a set of needle nose pliers, bring it down, and have a wet microfiber, which then allows you to cool it in place and try and get the channel as tight as you can to the lens, like it is as factory. And you can do that by just working on a small area, doing it, inserting the lens back in and seeing how tight it is, and that will help you make a good seal which looks good as well. And that's about it really. I think if you follow common sense and what's in the video, and if you have any questions you want to ask me, I will answer them as well. You should be okay. It's actually a fairly easy mod, but there is an easier way to do it if you don't want to paint the inside of your lights, and that's called the cutting method. I also have a video for that as well. So have a look at that, see which one you want to do. If you just want the Tribars, go with the cutting method. If you want to paint the inside of your lights, go with the heat gun method. Don't do the oven method. Too many stories of lights melting, and they're not cheap. Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Peace out.